you need to buy yourself a gun. What? Gun? What? Like a handgun. For personal protection. If somebody tries to mug you. What? What if your government tries to throw you in a can? What? You're gonna want a shotgun. Oh. What? An automatic rifle. And a lot of ammo. Gun? Yeah, gun.
We're all set to riot. Buy a gun before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They'll burn you out like a Waco. They'll stick your ass in a camp. Jack booty cops in riot gear, gonna kick your ass and laugh. The revolution is on its way. Better lock and load your AK. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. We're all set to riot. Buy a gun before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They gave your money to the banksters. They stole your pension funds. It's time that we took to the streets. It's time we had our turn. A revolution is on its way, and the founding fathers would say, buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Revolution's not clean and neat, you gotta riot in the streets. Revolution's not clean and neat, you gotta drag them through the streets.
It's Tuesday. This is PrimerTime. We are live on UCY.tv. PrimerTime, your UCY.tv home for firearms, and we also take messages for other shows. My name is Michael. I'll be answering phones for you tonight.
I'm Nick, and I'm just happy to be here.
What's going on, dude? How's your weather?
Oh, you know, it's in between that nasty South Texas heat and the nasty Northeast rain. It's that uncomfortable in-between phase.
Our South Texas heat right now is getting real close to Arizona heat. It's been real close to 100 degrees every day here. And that's no good. Yeah, so your family's doing all right?
Oh yeah, you know, they're getting by. We're living off government assistance. You know how that is.
Yeah, I understand. Living large, getting paid.
That's it. 76 cents an hour.
All right. So let's since you're living large and getting paid and bringing up the government and the man keeping you down and all, we've got a sort of interesting firearms related story that's very current events here. Recently, this is the 1 year anniversary of the death of Michael Brown.
Justifiable homicide, as it were.
Yes. Well, whatever you want to call it, the kid is dead. And I hesitate to call him a kid because he's 20 years old, whatever it was, and I don't even remember how old he was. I believe he was under 25. He may have been under 21, but he was acting in a way of an adult, and he paid the price of acting in the manner of an adult.
Yeah, I wouldn't even go so far as to say that. I would say that he was making decisions. And those decisions had unfortunate consequences for him.
As decisions are wanting to have consequences in every aspect of life, his ended out poorly for him. Now, this being the 1 year anniversary, we've seen some incidents of violence going on. But Nick, you brought up a pretty interesting story that was posted with the Oath Keepers. You want to kind of touch that?
Yeah. So we had. A couple different news outlets in the St. Louis area brought up the story of some Oath Keepers who showed up, and they were wearing their 5.11 tactical tailor type gear, and the news just said they appeared to be with assault rifles. So, which basically means that every single one of them had an AR-15. They actually positioned themselves to kind of be a barrier between, basically guys who were kind of trying to meld in with the peaceful protest, but these guys did not have peaceful intentions. These are the same folks that are throwing rocks at the cops and then retreating behind the crowd. So the Oath Keepers were there, and like I said, their presence was unwelcome from local law enforcement, based on what the admin folks, the folks who are not sitting there on the ground getting rocks thrown at them and bricks. That's what they said. So it's an interesting story.
It's a very interesting story, and there's actually been several angles of media coverage portraying this, and ranging from what you could call, loosely the right-wing media, that, or even patriot media or whatever, that's portraying this as a very good thing for gun owners, and this is how it should be, which I tend to agree with, that they prove that the firearms aren't the problem; it's the intent.
And that's one of those problems
of the person with the firearm.
I was going to say that's one of those problems that people who are not in a position where they have to make a split-second decision based on what perceived intent is. Those kind of folks who like to second guess and do the Monday morning quarterback or the Sunday analyst type thing, they really have never had that opportunity, nor had they had that split second to make a life or death decision, whether it be life or death for somebody else or life or death for themselves if they make the wrong call. So that's one of those things that it's kind of, I look at it as, hey, everybody should probably take a step back. There's absolutely nothing wrong with peaceful protests. There's absolutely nothing wrong with, holding a vigil to memorialize somebody that you may have felt was taken wrongfully. But I think that what people want out there is that they genuinely want the blood of police officers. And it's being shown. There was one individual who was shot after he shot at undercover police officers a few days ago.
Okay, now, but this individual that was shot was not actually anywhere involved with the protest. He was actually involved in another crime separate from the protest that happened to be going on near the protest. He wasn't any sort of supporter.
Right.
Now,
so, Michael,
really,
why are we profiling this guy as a criminal? I mean, come on, honestly. Think about the
job. Well, listen, I mean, this is something that I want to get into right here, right? That whole attitude of why are we profiling him? Well, this is something that's been shown in the media from several different angles, and I think truly every angle on it is propaganda. I haven't seen one really good, honest reporting of the events with the Oath Keepers there that didn't have some angle to push.
And that's one of the things that really sucks, because they spoke to one of the gentlemen that was with the Oath Keepers, and he said, as he was quoted, that he was out there to use his Second Amendment right for open carry.
See, now I think the media loves to report. Now, actually, before I say that, what's the source on that one right there?
Oh, you're going to make me try and remember this stuff off the top of my head.
I mean, let's see, was that because I've read a story in the Guardian today, and it was basically, it said, white men with black rifles walk freely in Ferguson while the black man is subjugated.
Picking off unassuming people of color and minority status.
Right. And then once you start reading into this article, which is truly race baiting, and it says in the article that they are there for InfoWars, that a reporter for InfoWars invited them, and ostensibly for his protection, since he was going to be reporting on these Ferguson riots. Now, I don't think you're necessarily a fan of InfoWars, are you?
Not really.
Yeah, I find it to be a little sensationalistic.
He's the Alex Jones is definitely on the Glenn Beck side of be very afraid and buy lots of gold from my sponsors.
Right. So you see him selling fear porn and fear porn accessories.
Well, yeah, and to be able to hedge against the next meltdown.
Right. And I'm sorry if you don't have enough dehydrated powdered milk.
You better have your bucket with 72 pounds of different varieties of beans, though.
And your Ecolo Blue water filter, your atmospheric generator that, well, in times of a serious breakdown, this thing only requires like massive amounts of electricity to run. So it's perfect for an off-grid situation for the prepper out there. So yeah, I see the media push on this to be another little squirt of gas on the fire of the coming race war. It appears that they're really, really pushing for.
Well, this is the thing. If you go back to the December coverage of the, I wasn't even, I guess it was December, whenever it was, that the I guess he was the county prosecutor or the city prosecutor declined to, after the grand jury decided that they didn't have enough evidence to prosecute.
Right.
It's just amazing to me that after all this time, we still have some of the media pushed over sensationalistic and downright untrue mantras that are still circulating. We've got the Black Lives Matter that is just basically taking over every platform that the Democrat Party right now has in their 3 or 4 way race for their presidential nominee. Bernie Sanders getting overrun by people in I want to say it was in Seattle.
Yeah. Now that's a really interesting story from several different perspectives, and coming from a firearm perspective. We're not deviating from the path, because really, if that was anybody else, where was the Secret Service? I mean, cops are shooting people in the streets for no seatbelt and things like that. 2 people rushing the stage with a sitting senator.
Yeah,
doesn't get at least a taser.
Oh, don't tase me, bro. Don't tase me, bro.
But I mean, doesn't he have Secret Service or something like that?
No.
Trump got Secret Service because he talked smack about El Chapo.
Yeah,
right.
Well, I will tell you that anybody that remembers the Gabby Giffords shooter from Tucson, she was not protected by any kind of Capitol Police, and I think honestly, anytime a representative or a senator,
that wasn't during a presidential campaign.
No, it wasn't. But then again, like I said, those candidates only receive Secret Service protection after they are the party's declared candidate in the election. So Mitt Romney only received Secret Service protection, in the month and a half or so, whenever before the official election occurred, after he received the party's nomination.
All right. Well, I wasn't aware of it to be as such. I figured since he was already a senator and.
Yeah. What they tend to do is while they're in D.C., they rely on the Capitol Police.
That just takes away half my rage for this event.
Yeah, sorry to disappoint you. But
we
you know what?
We get a wrong number call right about now.
Yeah, something for 2 shows or 2 shows in the future. So, we've got another interesting thing, because, the way that I look at the whole Ferguson thing is, Ferguson to me is now Ferguson. It's all about guns over there, and it's all about the media's portrayal of, cops in a racist police force. You're right. It's the racist shakedown tactic. And I'm surprised Jesse Jackson's not out there saying that they don't have enough black folks in the police force. So,
I'm seeing firearms used in this race debate quite often as well, and I'm going to have to refer back to Chicago. Recently, reading a story about gun control in Chicago. I'm very interested. I'm not necessarily as interested in the story that's provided by the media outlet when I read the news. I'm more interested in the comments.
Right.
In the rare event that the media outlet still allows comments.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned that, because I've actually got a beef with the Denver Post regarding the way that they actually like to stifle honest debate. And it's along the same lines. I posted to one of their stories about gun control, and I was cautioned by an administrator for my vitriol. So, I'm pretty sure a lot of Americans don't even know what vitriol means because most U.S. Americans can't afford a dictionary. Tip my hat to
Well,
Miss South
they don't
Carolina.
have maps either. Have maps either, man. Dictionaries, maps, such as.
And such as, correct. So, the big thing is that there's it's sad to say, but there's a mantra out there, and it's just repeated at every turn. Whether it's the Black Lives Matter, whether it's the hands up, don't shoot. You know,
See, I think it's there's that aspect that's pushing that portion of the race war, but on the other side, I think there's just as much. I think what could truly be described as vitriol on the opposite side of the Black Lives Matter campaign really kind of adds to the racial tensions as well.
certainly.
And to be honest with you, I don't think that either side is genuine.
Well, no, certainly, and I think that we've got some Canadian friends in the Great White North. I've spent a little bit of time in Canada, and I would like to say that I've never actually met an African Canadian. I've met Black Canadians, but I've never
Okay,
met
well,
an
I'll
African
tell you
Canadian.
what. I've spent a little bit of time in Canada, and I mean, like a little bit of time enough to like enjoy the Canadian culture to the point of where I was watching Canadian TV, and there was I would say in the province of Ontario, it would have been near the city of Sarnia. I was watching one of the Canadian TV channels, and they had referred to a black guy in Canada as an African American Canadian. And right, and my friend who I was there visiting him and his family, we both just kind of chuckled at it. But I mean, that was probably one of the opening salvos, or some of like the pounding the beach for this upcoming race war. I mean, it takes all fronts. I mean, it's not just an assault on firearms and liberties. It's an assault on the language. And once you can control the language, you can. Well, you kind of own the game. I mean, there's a reason why Google changed their name to Alphabet.
Yeah.
They have the basis of language. They control it all now.
Yeah. Well,
That's
I'll
the way
tell you what. It's interesting to me because it's often been said that when you hyphenate, all you do is separate. So we've got not only the language that's suffering, but we've got the culture that is really in a state of flux. You think a state like Texas, as conservative and resistant to change as a state could possibly be. You've got mayors in the city like let's say Houston, who have sought to radically change the discourse of what a politician is normally in the dominion of. And I can't remember.
If you really want to address that, let's look at Los Angeles and the Los Angeles City Council. They've enacted not only a large what's commonly referred to as a high capacity magazine ban, but this is also a confiscation.
Well, possibly.
And I mean, they've given, I think it's 2 weeks to either surrender them to the sheriff or get them out of the county.
Yeah, bum deal.
And then if you want to, you can look at Seattle. Seattle just recently, I think it was Monday, they passed a per bullet tax.
Yeah, so let me go ahead and handle that one. So basically, the Seattle City Council has passed a new tax on both guns and ammunition. And this is under the purview of raising revenue for violence prevention and gun safety research. So what the tax actually comes down to is a $25 tax on all firearms sold in the city and a 5-cent tax on each round of ammunition. So do the math. You look at a box of 20 rounds, that's an extra $1, right? I mean, my math's not great, but maybe that's about right.
Right. So and that's regardless of caliber.
Right. Yeah. The caliber is immaterial, what this is to alleviate the
So
Seattle
it
hospital.
adds $2.
Go ahead, Michael.
It adds $2.50 to a box of. It adds $2.50 to a box of 22 long rifle.
Okay, there you go. And then, like I said, you add on the $25 tax on all firearms sold in the city, regardless of whether it's an original or a consignment sale, original purchase or consignment sale. So what they're billing this as a public health crisis, and saying that guns are the public health malady that needs to be remedied. And this actually doesn't sound like it's gonna stand the test of jurisprudence. It sounds like there's going to be a couple lawsuits that are going to be filed, much like what happened in San Francisco when San Francisco tried to outright bar the sale of firearms within the city and county. So I think that what it comes down to is this is going to be looked at from a commerce position when it goes to the courts, and they're going to say that the city council or the locality is trying to put an undue burden on the sale of firearms and trying to basically legislate that industry out of the town. And honestly, I don't think it'll stand up, but it's going to take quite a bit of time, and it's going to take quite a bit of money for this to get through the courts.
Well, I'm seeing that the firearms are once again the focal point, and not only the focal point, but they're going to be an issue that keeps on dividing people. So, in light of that, I went to a gun show over the weekend. How'd you do?
Oh, tell us about it.
It was held at a county fairground, in the great big exhibition hall. It was rather large. I would say there were 700 tables, $5 entry, no parking fee, 2 beef jerky vendors, and prices were fairly interesting. Ammunition was still quite high at the gun show, but I've found that it's almost always been high at the gun show for the last I'd say about last 5 years, maybe even last 7 years. I've noticed it to be quite high. It used to be a lot cheaper in the past, but it's not the case now. It's regularly expensive at the show. Prices on new firearms from FFL dealers were quite reasonable. Everybody was underneath the MSRP. Now
that's a big change.
Right. I saw AR-15s for as low as $525. With everything that you needed on it.
Right.
Just 30-round magazine. It's got your mag pull, this, that, the other, and it's even some of them already came with the backup sights installed on the rail. Some of them, AK-47s were no more than $600.
Yeah.
And now I'm talking. These are from FFL tables. You could buy a Ruger 1022 for $149, which is really a good deal.
Right.
Now you look at the private sale tables; their prices were nowhere near that, and so much to be is more than new that it was. You're looking at 1.25 times the price of new.
Wow, and
which I think kind of points to the, to what is going on with the current situation in the country and people's feelings towards firearms.
Well, it's good that you brought up that you went to a show, because we had another story about some guns bought at a local Dallas gun show that were intercepted as they were bound for Africa.
Oh yeah, so give me that one, because
right.
Those Dallas gun shows are fairly interesting. Dallas gun shows, there's probably in the metro area of Dallas, there's probably at least 2 a weekend.
Right. And, as it is the Metroplex, there's a lot of people out there, and a lot of people do like their firearms. But the story is coming out of the Dallas Morning News, and it's interesting that some handguns that were purchased at a North Texas gun show, and more than one actually, ended up in West Africa and are in that are charged with the names, and I'm gonna checking. You can tell. Okay, so Ni Arma Obene, Dambayi Edmund Afuwiba, Henry Kofi Planji, and they're facing charges, and then Jerry Gomina.
Those would almost sound like Ethiopian names or perhaps Somali names.
Pretty close. You would almost get. But
well, I'm not an Africa expert by any means.
Yes, it's because U.S. Americans don't.
I'm suffering from my lack of maps.
Yes.
It's interesting that handguns were the item that were exported, because at this show that I went to, there weren't a whole lot of personal sales of handguns by people that actually came into the show. It seems that handguns have been at a premium. If somebody had a handgun for sale as a private seller or as a customer walking around in the show, it was very, very expensive. It was usually like a high-end gun or something that was sort of older and rare in the box, or it was like somebody's Ruger P85 that they were asking no less than $500 for.
Wow.
Which, that's a sub $300 gun all day.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that these folks, they're basically trying to do the straw buy, right? So they're making a purchase of a firearm other than what they're reporting to the feds. But the interesting thing in this story is
they bought these firearms brand new.
They bought them over a period of 3. It's kind of interesting that these guys get locked onto for buying these weapons over a period of 3 years. But apparently they're being accused of smuggling both guns and ammunition to Ghana after buying the handguns from various firearms dealers and putting them in container ships and things on household goods shipments that are ended up going into to Africa. So, goes to show you think you're buying something and people aren't listening to you. Somebody may be.
Well, that's interesting that they'd make such a big deal out of that, because really in the end that's not a problem that's actually kind of affecting the United States. And I'm going to guess that just between a couple of guys, if they're buying retail, they're not actually getting a significant amount. And I mean by significant, I mean in the thousands, numbers in the thousands.
Right.
And just to counter that, we can show that the Garland Draw Muhammad contest, one of the firearms used in that was actually from a Fast and Furious operation.
Yep.
From I think it was Lone Wolf Gun Shop in Phoenix. So once again, we're looking at like a lot of propaganda built up to demonize the firearm.
Well, and that's the thing. I think when you take a look at it, there's the firearm is a tool. You could almost equate it to a long range drill. It puts a hole in something a little bit further away than you are from it. But
right.
But there's
and I think people are recognizing the fact the value of that, and they're definitely aware of the value of the undocumented, so to speak, firearm. People walking around at the show, I was luckily able to pick up a really, really nifty item. I got a Mossberg 500. It's a crown grade shotgun, and with the gold trigger, and it's got a little nicer finish on the receiver, and the bolt is jeweled, and this has a 28-inch barrel with a turkey choke on it. Really nice, and I picked it up for $125.
That, my friend, is a steal.
Even if I was to have paid $100 more for that, that was a really good deal. So now this is just a standard Mossberg 500, just niced up a little bit. I think the wood furniture is really nice. The fore end is a little bit thicker. It's a little bit heavier than the fore end on the standard 500. It's a nicer color wood, a little bit darker blonde, and it comes with a butt pad already on the stock. You know, it's standard Mossberg 500 setup. It's, you know, five shell capacity in the magazine tube.
Much,
and it's
much better than the 500A with its 3-round capacity.
Right, you know, and the 500A with the 3-round capacity, you can actually just take that plug out and then you're back to the 5.
Yeah,
you know, and that was really a deal. I hadn't planned on buying anything at that show, but that opportunity presented itself, and that's really kind of a good quality firearm. And like something we've discussed in the past, I think some of these older firearms that people really aren't looking at as super desirable in the aesthetic sense, you know, just because it's not being used by the media either in movies or in video games or anything. These are excellent buys that serve you well, excellent quality, and I believe that they'll have much more value than a Frankenstein AR-15 in the future, or, you know, Tupperware of the month 9mm.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You know, when you go to shows or you look at your local your gun sales page, are you actually out there looking for those kind of deals, or are you just, you know, browsing, seeing what's available in your area? Are you willing to travel? You know, what kind of things are you looking at?
Well, just due to my location, everything is traveling. My buying criteria has really changed in the last I'd say in the last 6 months, but some other concerns have come up for me as well, and I think actually I'd like to share these concerns with the firearms enthusiasts and, you know, our small but meager audience. You know, I really think that this is something we should cover, but in my area, and I'm speaking in my general area, in the past week, there's been 2 firearms transactions that I know of that have had poor outcomes. One was in San Antonio, and this was through one of the large social media platforms, and it starts with an F. One of the groups. There was a guy using, we'll just say, a generic gangster name, and he was selling to a guy using another generic hip hop gangster name. And both of them, once got access to the profiles, both of them looked like, you know, throwing gang signs and holding bags of drugs in their mouth and flashing, you know, $48 while, you know, they exposed the hand that's got arthritis and all that. I guess that transaction went bad, and one of them killed the other one, stole his firearm and stole his car and watch and wallet and pager and sunglasses and all that kind of stuff. And
people still use pagers?
Threw them underneath.
Oh.
Yeah, I think those are. I think that's kind of like a new thing amongst the youth.
Wow.
The youths of today are pagers. It's kind of like a throwback thing, I guess.
Yeah, it must be.
But anyways, this kid got killed, and the murderer actually ended up posting. The murderer and his cousin ended up posting some really incriminating statements on Facebook.
Because he's not that smart.
Really, it's really not. I mean, look, if you just killed somebody and you stole all of his stuff, don't take a picture with all of his stuff and put it on Facebook. That's just like probably criminal 101.
Yeah, well, you know, Facebook, Google, U.S. data analytics, CIA. It's all the same. They'll figure it out.
Yeah, Alphabet Incorporated. They know all the letters.
Yep.
All right. So that happened, and then there was another incident just the next day where a man went to meet another guy at a location, and there was 2 of them and 1 of him. He wasn't armed, other than the firearm he was selling, and basically he got threatened with a hammer and robbed.
Oh, there
And,
you go.
So, I mean, the crime is out there, but there's steps you need to take if you're engaging in these acts to protect yourself. Number one, if I'm going to do a firearms transaction, the first thing I'm doing is whatever platform I'm using, I'm going to check out this person's past activities on that. I'm going to look for whatever pictures he posts, what kind of things he posts. If the profile is set to private, that's a great big warning. That then you kind of I personally put a little more scrutiny on just the profile picture and what kind of name he is. In that situation, if that deal, I decide to actually make a deal like that, I don't go alone. I will take a friend, and not just any friend. I will take a friend who is armed, willing, and ready and alert.
Somebody who is the designated decoy.
Or perhaps a designated shooter. That would work for me. If it comes down to it, I'd like for my buddy to shoot first if I can't, which puts you into another situation. Do you arm yourself? Now,
I mean, I think that kind of goes without saying because.
Well, but this is something that can be difficult for people in states that don't live with the freedom of open carry like you do. Like in Texas, honestly, I could carry legally. Let's say I could take a firearm, carry it in my car, but legally, the minute I get out of my car, I have to leave the firearm in the car concealed, and then I'd have to deal with this person without a firearm. So that puts me at a great disadvantage. So really kind of brings up a question, if you're going to do this, are you going to perhaps potentially break the law to ensure your safety? And then that also brings up, are you actually breaking the law if nobody gets hurt?
Well,
if there's
you can also take a few more precautions out there. You talked about checking these folks out, checking their profiles or their past buying history, looking for feedback from other purchasers or sellers that have dealt with this individual. Site selection. Where you're actually going to go make the deal. That's got to play into it quite a bit.
Very important. That's very important. In the first case I was speaking about, these young guys agreed to meet at somebody's house, and there was somehow some screenshots were posted, and it had proved out that the assailant had made sure that the guy who ended up being the victim had come by himself.
Yeah.
So
that's giveaways.
Yeah. So I mean, pay attention now. Now in this situation, I would have gone armed. I probably would have gone armed twice. I probably would have had a large gun and a smaller gun.
Yeah, and probably not would have gone in the first place. Based on if you get that.
I wouldn't have dealt with these guys. That's absolutely
that's what I'm saying. I mean, you gotta take a look and go with your gut feeling. I think that most people have that gut feeling that doesn't lead them down the wrong path very often, and for those that do, they don't have that gut feeling very long because they end up dead quickly.
Right. So I mean, like situations like this may turn people off from the private sales, which I think may lead to more business at gun shows, because a gun show is relatively well protected. You can make the person-to-person trade. There is police presence, but it's not oppressive or anything. It usually appears to me that police respect people's rights at a gun show.
Yeah.
Now, regarding this gun show, there's some interesting items there that, intrigued me very much. And it's kind of a touchy subject. It's a legal gray area right now. And in the firearms world, that's really not saying anything really. A legal gray area is pretty much, all of it, or what all the current legislation and ATF rulings come out to be. So anyhow, there's a company out there selling, and there's many companies actually selling something they call oil solvent trap adapters. Okay. Now,
Sounds
what this is, it is very interesting. It's a usually it's an item that would resemble, for example, like an oxygen sensor removal tool on a truck. And if anybody doesn't know what that is, it's just a large socket that has a slot cut out of it. All right. So imagine that to be a little bit smaller. It's threaded on one end, and these were he had a large portion of them designed for the Ruger 1022. So it's threaded, and then there's a slip-on end that would slide over the barrel and right around the front sight, and then there's a set screw at the bottom that you can lock it on, and it gives you a threaded end that actually fits an oil filter.
Oh, not bad. So we've seen this in the past, and that has some interesting legal concerns with it, doesn't it?
It has interesting legal concerns, but I believe it's a perfectly legal product to own if used as the product is intended. I think once you've violated the intent of the product is where you've got your problem.
Yeah, because that would make that a suppressor, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe that would be an accurate statement. Now, the intent of the product is and what it can be used for are two different things. And I'm sure that the company would say that, this is not their intent for it. And the intent that they state is so that when you're cleaning your firearm, that the fluids that you use, say you use some sort of gun spray or chemical spray or whatever, that you would spray it down the barrel and it would end up in an oil filter. And supposedly, I guess you would recycle that fluid somehow. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but in the event of an accidental discharge while doing this, it would render that discharge significantly less loud than an oil filtered accidental discharge.
And that would be an unlicensed oil filter attached device.
Which would mean that the little attachment piece would have to have you're
going to need that stamp.
A serial, and you'd have to pay for a stamp and go through all. So I think that company's walking a very, very fine line. It's very interesting. Once again, the product currently is completely legal. He was selling them for $20, so it's not necessarily something that's on the edge so much that he's going to make a large profit. Now $20, but you also have to realize that this is it's just a small machine piece of aluminum, and honestly, as somebody who's got a lathe could probably just bump these out, all day long. And if he's selling them at $20 a piece, he's probably making a good chunk of money.
Yeah, not to mention the fact he's going to have the scrutiny of the ATFE all over him. So we know that there's nothing worse than an ATF agent who has nothing to do.
Right. So I mean, I just I thought that was a very interesting item, and it's not the first time I've seen them, but it's the first time that I actually sat there and talked with the guy for a while, and he was very, very particular in the way that he spoke. He referred to these as either fitting the GM line, or they would fit like an import line.
Yeah. So how were you able to decipher his code talk?
I was interpreting his circular language to mean the reference of the thread size. So like let's just say, for example, an oil filter for a large Chevy truck isn't going to actually be able to fit onto a Toyota. It's just not the same.
Yeah, you're
actually
with
on
your
a road, actually might
your
be
customary measures.
Right. So I found that was a pretty interesting table there. And what was really interesting to me is that, I spent probably about 3 hours at the show, and I walked by his place several times, and he wasn't necessarily really busy. Now, for an item that was $20 at the show, there's really not a lot you can buy for $20 at a show. I mean, other than beef jerky or a small, maybe one box of ammunition. And this gives you the potential for so much fun at the federal level.
Yeah, exactly.
I just found it to be a really interesting product. So, yeah, but I'll tell you what, I'm really happy with that Mossberg shotgun. I think that's a pretty nifty item. The barrel had a little bit of damage, but it's it's a good working shotgun.
Well, that's good, man. One of the things that I found was real interesting is we talked about some legislation a while back that would have made the transfer of information, schematics, plans on firearms illegal. You remember talking about that?
Right. That was I can't remember what it was called, but yeah, the dissemination of the information was considered to be like a state secret or something.
Right. So, there's an interesting app that is now out there that brings the opportunity for you to find gun deals by way of your smartphone. And I think that would probably fall under that same category.
See, now that when information becomes the enemy, I think you got to recognize you're living in the area of lies right now.
Right. Well, the interesting thing is that this is an app called Gun Dealio, and it's for both iOS and Google app. And what it does is it uses geo-targeting to get shooters to the closest deal on guns, ammo, and accessories from some 2,400 independent and big box stores. We're talking folks like Cabela's, Bass Pro, Dick's Sporting Goods, Gander Mountain. Is
Walmart on that list?
I don't know yet.
But in the areas of the United States where there are guys that hunt, generally there's a lot of Walmarts, and I mean that's not a racist statement by any means, but there's a lot of Walmarts, and I would say that a good percentage of the American shooter buys his ammunition at a Walmart.
Right. Well, the cool thing is that this app went onto the stores in June, and it's been downloaded over 10,000 times. And even a major gun manufacturer named Carr has signed on to have their pistols and weapons information flown out through this program. So that's kind of an interesting thing. I think
that's a smart business move on Carr's part.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's a smart business move on their part. Yeah, good luck to them. I hope that works out.
So, if you're having trouble finding that 22 ammo, this may be the way to go ahead and do it.
Well, that's an interesting subject again. There was plenty of 22 long rifle at the show. There were buckets, there were bricks, there were individual boxes. There was more plastic CCI boxes than I've seen in a long time. I even saw Remington Viper, which I haven't seen that 22 in a long time. There was plenty of 22 out there, but I still think that people are buying and hoarding. And I think we discussed it earlier in the past that we can figure there's 70 million gun owners in the United States, and logically, I think, and honestly, everybody can say that about half of them have a 22 at least, and you figure that all of them want a brick at 22. So that's 500 rounds for 35 million people. That comes out to be like 17.5 billion rounds. Well, like CCI only makes 4 million rounds a day. So, we're like at least like almost a 5-year backlog.
Yeah.
At that rate for CCI, to come up with that amount. So, I mean, I think it's coming back. It's just coming back slowly. And I think if you shop around, you can find near pre-panic prices online.
Well, and that's good because we've talked about in the past the different aggregators that are out there that'll show you what you're actually paying in the per round cost, and at bulk. So you're actually going to be able to start seeing those come back down. I don't know, probably within the next 6 months or so. I'd even say. I wouldn't say that right now that they're still coming down. Whenever I go to my local Walmart, 22 is not to be found, and I'll talk to the sporting goods
Well,
counter.
that's the same here. It's not to be found here because when it shows up, it gets cleaned out.
Well, but see that's the thing. You see over at some of the bigger box stores that deal specifically with guns and ammo, and they have 22 on the rack or on the shelf.
The limit.
Yeah, there's a limit, but it's there. I'm telling you, in my location, I have not seen 22 for sale aside from my local hardware store guy, and he doesn't even carry it anymore. But it's just not available here, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because there's a major university that the folks here don't want the shooting sports or even anything to do with firearms to be able to be enjoyed. But it's interesting to me that across the nation, I see stories, I see YouTube videos of people saying, what panic? There's no rush on this stuff. There's no hoarding going on because they can go in and get it. It's just not that way for me.
Well, that also speaks to something else. A lot of people's world seriously is only like a radius of 50 miles. That's their entire world. So,
yeah, that's true.
If it's within their area, they think it's like that all over the place. Yeah.
So I mean,
but it is available online, and pretty much every retailer has it. I did see it at Midway USA. I saw it at Cabela's. Now, granted, their prices are not the best. They're not bargain basement prices, but if you're looking for it and it's an in demand item, well, that's just kind of the laws of sales right there. It's the economic rules.
Well, you definitely should have stocked up ahead of time, right?
Well, if you were, thinking that way, yeah, I guess. But boy, it's a lesson that everybody should learn. Yeah. Hey, Nick, we got to. Speaking of lessons, let's touch the 4 rules of gun safety.
Oh, definitely get to it.
All right. Well, the first rule is every firearm is loaded to visually inspect and confirm. Visually and physically inspect and confirm that it is not loaded. Rule number 2 is watch the muzzle and keep it in a safe direction. Don't cover anything you don't wish to destroy. Rule number 3 is know what your target is, know what is beyond your target at all times. And rule number 4, truly, I think it's the most important rule. And after this gun show this weekend, once again, I saw so many violations of it, but please keep your booger hook off the bang switch until you are ready to discharge the weapon.
Yeah, we say it every week, but you always see the stories about the negligent discharges resulting in injury or death. So,
well, this finger off the trigger thing. This is also kind of relates a little bit to this Mossberg shotgun that I picked up. Right, so it's a crown grade shotgun. It's got a gold trigger on it,
right?
And why would it have a gold trigger? Is that like pimp, or is there an actual reason for that gold trigger? And I say there's an actual reason for it.
Go ahead, let's hear it.
Gold is non-corrosive. So any kind of finger sweat or oils or anything that would get on it would not cause the trigger to rust. I think that could be one of the reasons, combined with a touch of prestige.
Okay, well, I mean, I'll go with you on the anti-corrosive properties and maybe a touch of the prestige, but I do think it's more of a marketing standpoint. Because for example, I have a Browning X-Bolt, and that does also have a gold trigger on it. I think that's just a way where the company can get a few more dollars out of you when you go to make that purchase.
Well, I do believe that there is a profit margin involved, but I think that's not just a motivator like an extra rail with a different kind of attachment system on there. So you have to buy a whole brand line of stuff. I think this is just, add a few bucks to it and give them and give them something that actually performs at the same time.
Right, and
because
just like you were talking about the jeweling on the action of your shotgun, when
it's very nice. It makes it very easy to clean. It's just a little bit slicker than a standard cast action.
Right, which can also take some scratches or whatnot. The jeweling actually does give it that aesthetic look that says, hey, this is a nicer firearm.
Right. It's actually once again it's another item that not only gives it a more aesthetic touch, but it also has a true functioning, because jeweling actually makes the action run just a tad bit smoother.
Right. And, it reduces the weight too, because you're actually, while minuscule amounts, you're taking a little bit of that surface area away.
Yeah. So, I think it's just, it was a really good buy for me. Even at $100 more, I would have got it. I would have got a deal, because
definitely.
I would say that.
I was going to say, I see that the Mossberg 500 is going normally for $300 and up.
Right. So, I did fairly well on that one. That was one I didn't necessarily need another one, but that was one I just couldn't pass up.
Yeah.
And it's got a turkey choke on it, which, well, turkey choke is just a tad tighter, I think, and it really delivers a whole lot of pellets into a small area.
Well, get you some number 7 or number 8 shot, depending upon your local ordinance, and turkey season is getting to be around the corner. So, just like
actually, I think for turkey, I think you'd be better off with number 4.
Yeah, certain locales, you got to have a certain minimum and a certain maximum size shot. So, I would definitely go with that. I think the 20 gauge that I'm going to have and see if I can go ahead and take out this year. I think the state says I can't have anything smaller than number 6, and just see how it goes with a 20 gauge. I'm trying to protect the shoulders. The 12 gauge, that's fun once or twice. I'm not gonna go out there and do that all day.
How are you? I know that you're right side dynamic. Can you throw it up on your other side?
I probably could, but like I said, I just had the other shoulder done last year, so that would be even worse. And I'm not left eye dominant, so I would actually have to come across my field of view would have to come across the body of the shotgun, and that would not be good.
Well, learning to shoot off the other side might be like a good hobby to take up.
Yeah, definitely. If I could find some place out here to shoot, because damn it, every farmer out here, he hates the groundhogs, but he doesn't want you to shoot them.
Oh man, yeah. So go ahead and dump a whole bunch of poison on them.
Yeah, well, that's what they would rather do. Because that's more humane.
Oh, and you know what? They're probably the kind of people who buy their food at the grocery store, so nothing has to die.
They have the vision of the hunter gatherers taking their spears and throwing them at the shopping carts. So
can't get into that. So, anything you looking for in particular?
Well, actually, as time's getting ready to run out here, I did actually come across some brass in a very large quantity. We'll be turning the 5.56 that I received into the 300 blackout, and received a bunch of 308 Lake City brass that I will in turn pass on to a friend of PrimerTime, our good buddy Chris, who will actually take and formulate his favorite round for his M1A. So,
that's cool.
Yeah.
Good for him. All right.
So we're looking
Nick,
to getting that out there.
I got to thank UCY.TV, and I got to thank Jules. This is, a wonderful platform. Ladies and gentlemen, if you can, throw a couple bucks her way. If you buy anything off of Amazon, she's got a link on the website. Thanks for being here. Nick, I appreciate speaking with you every night, man.
No problem. I want to say thanks to our listeners, and thanks for not calling in for the next show.
No message taken tonight. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.